I started playing basketball since I was 2, and I haven't put it down since. The sound of the ball bouncing against the hardwood, the smell of the leather, the sound that it makes when it goes through the net, all of that, I just love everything about it.
I have decided to skip college and take my talent to the NBA.
Jerry West told me greatness lies ahead for this young man.
Kobe Bryant, the kid, serving up a facial 81-point game. History at Staples Center.
Kobe Bryant at the buzzer!
Kobe Bryant,
one of the greatest of all time.
And we'll rise up. I like the waves will rise up. In spite of the ache, we'll rise up.
NBA Most Valuable Player Award.
We'll do it 1,000 times again.
back to back Clippers.
Kobe was someone I just always wanted to be like.
He meant so much to me as a player.
And it's the reason why I play the game the way I play the game.
His impact is everlasting.
I love everything about this game. So for me, it's not a part of life, it is life. And it's truly a part of me.
Welcome to episode 324 of the Double Clutch podcast. It seems surreal to me that the number 24 is attached to this episode of this show, a labour of love of mine since July 2012. When we were looking ahead to this edition, we could have never imagined the events which would occur and shape this show this past weekend. This past Sunday, the 26th of January 2020, is a date myself and many basketball fans will remember for the rest of their lives. As Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others died suddenly as the helicopter they were travelling in lost altitude and crashed. With me tonight, I'm joined by 2 men who I would have probably never met had it not been for Kobe Bryant and the love of basketball that he instilled in me. Hi, Mike.
Hey.
And hi, Huw.
Good evening, gentlemen.
It's been a difficult week for not only me, but everybody, the whole basketball world. We've postponed this show due to yet more unfortunate events, which unfortunately have affected me, but personally I won't go into them at the moment, or probably ever. But life must go on. So here we are, and to be honest with you all, I don't really know what to say. This is probably the first scripted intro I've ever done in I don't know how many podcasts, but yeah, it's a weird one to say, and I just don't really know what to say except that right now the basketball world is hurting. The NBA as a league is hurting. We've seen players who are all roughly my age. I'm 28, just to give you an idea. All quite emotionally attached to some player who I never met. But yeah, as I said, the NBA as a league is hurting, and personally, myself, I'm hurting. I don't think I'll find the words to describe some things tonight. I've tried to put them into written form on the website, and judging from some of the comments, I did a pretty good job, even though I personally think it's crap. But you will have to excuse me, who is your usual confident host, as the next half an hour might become perhaps a little too much for me. This crazy 28-year-old who started a basketball website in 2012, fell in love with Kobe as a teenager, and yeah, it's been a weird week. So, Mike, where were you when you heard about this, and were you like me? Could you just not quite believe what you were seeing? I mean, obviously TMZ kind of were the ones who initially reported it, and they're not exactly the most reputable of outlets. They're a site that you tend to not believe. You take everything with a bit of pinch of salt. And I don't think I was 100% convinced at the time I saw that. But where were you on Sunday evening UK time when you sort of saw the news?
So I was downstairs in my living room with my fiancée and my son. Happened to be, just playing on the floor, and then I thought, I'll just check my phone as I do occasionally, see what's going on, and saw this TMZ tweet, and like you, didn't trust it. So I just looked at it and I went, oh, okay, this it's got to be a hoax, got to be fake, got to be just can't be real. There's no way it's real. And I started getting text messages, like not, obviously the Slack was starting to fire up as well, but I was getting texts from guys I played basketball with when I was a teenager, from guys I went to school with, from people I've not spoke to in about 20 years, saying,
Yeah.
is this Kobe thing for real? And every single one that were coming in, I was just like, look, it's TMZ. Until someone more reputable confirms it, everything's just reported at the minute. I don't trust anything. I don't, part of that's because I didn't trust them, and part of them is because I didn't want to believe it.
Part of that's the world we live in. It's, Twitter and social media has made it so easy for lies and hate
fake
to
news
be spread.
Yeah, and then Woj tweeted it, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Now something's not right. And I was just hopeful that it was like a mistake by Woj. He's made mistakes before, obviously never to the degree of this because he's never had to deal with anything like this. But it kind of took me back quite a way. I couldn't get my head around it. I didn't want to believe it. I still don't want to believe it really. I woke up the next day. I stayed up till way later than I should have done. And when I woke up the next day, I was like, maybe this was all just a mistake overnight, and unfortunately it wasn't.
Yeah, it's all been a little bit surreal. Huw, what about you? What were you doing on Sunday evening?
It's just sort of watching TV as you do, and it was quite bizarre because I found out because I had a phone call from a number I didn't know, who turned out to be a BBC journalist, which was just the most weird interaction in my life.
Yeah.
And he broke the news to me, and said, could you talk about this? So I sort of agreed to it, but I said I want to check a few things first, obviously, because he mentioned that it was TMZ on the phone. But by the time I had sort of gone online, it wasn't just TMZ. It was also a few other websites, and I sort of thought, well, I'm not going to go on until I hear from because I think one or two of the other websites was another gossip website. One was the Daily Mail. So I thought, well, I'm not gonna go on until I've sort of seen it from a reputable thing. And like you said, Woj tweeted it, and as like you said, Matt, even though Woj has made some mistakes in the past, you can guarantee he would have never tweeted out something like that. This isn't a draft pick, This is this is something of huge, serious implications. So I think once he confirmed it, I thought, well, this is this is real now. And like I said, within a few minutes, I think only about 7 or 8 minutes had passed, and then I sort of spoke to the BBC, which was incredibly bizarre because I was still gathering my thoughts and didn't know much of the details. It was only, I think, earlier, maybe we're recording this on Tuesday night. I think it was
about 8 o'clock. I think it was something like that.
So 48 hours have passed now, but we just still didn't know the details of how many people had died who was in the helicopter with him.
Yeah,
it was a bizarre 24 hours. All the news reports coming out, trying to figure out who was with him, what the situation was. First of all, well, I'm not going to go too much into it. There was a lot of bad reporting, a lot of speculation, but and a lot of people trying to be quick with the news, which you with news you need to be right. You don't need to be need to be first. And I think a lot of people, that's also just Twitter. People wildly speculating, saying, "Oh, well, I saw this." They're not trying to report the news, but on Twitter things just get out of control, don't they? But in terms of Kobe, I mean, it's just shock, isn't it? I mean, I think I can't remember who said it. It might have been Oliver in the Slack channel. He said he never thought Kobe would die, and I'm sort of with him. It feels weird. I thought Kobe was going to be here forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's strange. He went from being somebody who you can considered sort of immortal to, well, just being like the rest of us. And it's kind of what I was trying to get across in the end of my article, is that in the end he just died an ordinary dad trying to take his daughter to a basketball game, and that makes it incredibly sad. And everybody else who's on that flight as well, from what we gather, loads of gifted, talented female athletes growing up in an age where women shouldn't be afraid to take on sports these days. The national leagues, the WNBA in particular, something which I know, Huw, you have a great affection for, they are growing, and Kobe was a massive supporter of that. And I know Kobe Bryant is accused and may have done some bad things in his life, but he is human, and you will find many people in the world who have done things and they regret them. But the whole point of being a human is that you learn from your mistakes and you take that on. And by all accounts, he was a brilliant father. Gianna loved him to pieces. And he speaks the world of her. If you go back and watch any of the footage from, Jimmy Fallon or Conan O'Brien or any of the US talk show hosts, when he's on there and talking about her, she had something, judging from what he thought. And Kobe Bryant has got to be a better judge than most of us when it comes to something as pure as, basketball talent. And it's strange. You're seeing all kinds of stories popping up in the last few days. You've sort of Lou Williams tweeting that they played. He was on a team with the Lakers with Kobe, and they played Portland once, and they lost the game. And in the end of the game, in the locker room, Kobe was like, "I'm taking all of your shoes because none of you deserve to wear Kobe's on your feet." And it's stuff like that is now leaking out, and we're kind of seeing that, Kobe Bryant, who was this immortal, godlike figure to so many people, is just a normal guy at the end of the day. And to come into the league at 17 years old, which I was too young to have really seen Kobe's first days, and my greatest memories of Kobe come in sort of what they call the back half of his career, 2007 onwards. I remember the sort of the 45 points he had against the Suns in the 2007 playoffs, where they lost that series, and Kobe kind of said he might want to get traded, which wasn't really confirmed until very recently, and in some of the books that have come out. And the sort of the 6 games against Deron Williams' Jazz and Carlos Boozer, and it seems like a different age going back and talking about those things now, but the game has changed so much in the time that Kobe was there. And it's the one thing that I put in, again, I'll refer back to my post because it's the only thing I can think of right now, but he was the one constant, 20 years, one franchise, always there, a leader, a guy who guys like LeBron James have looked up to. And you saw it after when the Lakers came off the plane the other night and they heard the news. It's horrible. It's really, really horrible. And I think it speaks volumes that, to what he was and what he represented to the league, and to how places like Manila and the Philippines have reacted to this news. It's incredible. I read somewhere, I think it might have been the Lazenby book, you'll probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like 110 million people in China watched Kobe's final game for the Lakers. And it's just astounding. It blows your mind. And to know that he's gone at the age of 41, when his life was just now starting with his girl and his girls and his family, Vanessa, who he's been with for forever. It's generally upsetting. And I mean, I don't have kids. I mean, I hope one day, to whoever my unfortunate wife is, if she listened to this.
Did you say unfortunate?
Yeah, I did. I would love kids, and I can only speak to the role models I have in my family and my dad, and how brilliant my dad's been. And he was in the Air Force for most of his life, and I've had to live that life with him, and it's made us tough. And I guess when I saw Kobe and the Mamba mentality, it was something that has stuck with me, and it stuck with me doing double clutch. We've all had it the last few years, times when we've thought, we can't do this anymore. We're still here. We keep fighting. We are building something. And the whole point of the show tonight, and there will be clips later on from Josh Coyne, who, again, I've met through doing Double Clutch, and you guys have met through doing Double Clutch, and Nick Whitfield, and we'll have tweets from people who have contacted us on Twitter from the NBA and the UK community. Like, the whole point of this was to bring you together, and, you know, it's strange to say it, but like, Kobe is the reason this is all here. And it's weird. I went back and listened to the start, actually, of episode 1 earlier on from, I think it was like July 12th, 2012, just before the Olympics we're about to get ready in London. And I'm on there with Andy, and you've got a San Antonio Spurs fan and a Los Angeles Lakers fan in the UK sitting there together, you know, rivalries aside. And again, we're doing that tonight here, talking about something that they love, and it's the same again tonight. And it still seems weird to me, and I can't quite believe it. I woke up this morning, I said to Huw just before I came on the show, like, I thought that the shock had gone, but the shock was truly there yesterday. And this morning I woke up and I saw the Timberwolves video, and it just it hit me. And I keep seeing things like that, and, you know, I never thought I would feel anything like this for somebody that I've never met. I've never even seen Kobe play in person for the Lakers. I've seen NBA games, but they've all been over here in the UK. I've never been stateside, and it's something that many of you will probably mock me for, but at the end of the day, like, Kobe changed my life, and I went from being kind of rugby mad to basketball mad, and it's just dominated my life. And I've met friends, and I've met, you know, I don't want to say colleagues, because you guys aren't colleagues, you are friends now. You're some of my closest friends. And I never had that until, you know, sort of basketball and Kobe. So it's a weird one for me, and I was really dreading doing this podcast, but now I'm here. I'm feeling the flow, if you get me. I'm getting there. But yeah, the fact that Gianna died also it's heartbreaking, and Josh has actually just wrote a piece on that on the website, so please go and check it out, doubleclutch.uk.
It's interesting that Kobe's brought us three to get together in particular on this specific pod, because you're obviously, you know, Kobe's you're, for want of a better word, one of your heroes. And
yeah,
then
it's weird, because I never thought I'd think of anything like that, but when I go back and I trace it, and I think, you know, without finding that clip of the lob to Shaq in the playoffs, and then without watching games from 2007, and, you know, running around my dorm at uni when Ron Artest tipped in the flipping buzzer-beating shot in the 2010 playoffs, like, stuff like that, and that was off Kobe. That was off a missed shot from Kobe, I seem to remember, which was typical. But like, I don't get it. I never understood people getting upset or, you know, emotionally attached to celebs before, but clearly, from watching 2006 onwards, that's 14 years, I guess, I've watched Kobe. It's clearly had some sort of an effect on me.
Yeah, clearly, and then you've got sort of the opposite in Huw, who's grown up on the other side of the fence from a fan's perspective, you know, with Kobe being the villain, and then me, who's from a slightly removed generation, who essentially Kobe was supposed to be the new Jordan, and I'm a Jordan stan, and the whole time I'm like, no, you'll never replace Jordan, you know. So I was already inbuilt to not root against him, but certainly not be willing to place him in the same sort of echelon as others do. It's just interesting that we've all sort of experienced his career from slightly different perspectives. I mean, I remember him coming into the league mainly because, you know, it was reasonably difficult to get hold of VHS at the time to watch NBA games. Yeah. So we had magazines like XXL, and there was a brief multi-sports one called Sported. I don't know if anyone out there remembers that. And I've still got these little like cards they made which were, you know, they sort of slid up and out, and there was a Jordan one and there was a Kobe rookie one where he's wearing his Charlotte Hornets cap, all things like that. Like, and I've still got them, and so it's just really bizarre to have seen both ends of his career and then now be at this point and having this conversation. It's not something I ever expected to have to discuss on a podcast.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, I mean, because yeah, he died like 48 hours ago as we're speaking, and like I said, like you alluded to, Mike, I hated Kobe. You know, he was on the team that we always used to play. I'm a Spurs fan. They always used to play in the playoffs. When I first started, I first got into the league in sort of the mid-90s, but I was very young and I just followed essentially whoever my brother followed, which was the Chicago Bulls at the time with Jordan. But then, I learned to follow my own team, and it was the Spurs, possibly because they had just won, and it was only... and it only lasted a season that they won, because the next few years it was the Lakers, and I hated you guys. I hated the Lakers. I hated Kobe. I hated the way that when he, when he scored, he would raise his fist and he would stick his chin out. I just wanted to punch him in that chin, because he was just like, "No, you suck, Kobe. I hate you."
Kobe's very distinct jawline was going to be a victim of Huw Hopkins' fist.
And the on-court dislike of Kobe Bryant, it did spill over into into off the court, because I didn't appreciate the sexual assault cases early in his career. I know I'm not going to try and go too much into that now, because I don't think it's the right time to do it necessarily, but
at the same time, can never. Sorry, I'm not interrupted, but we can't. I'm getting frustrated with outlets whitewashing it. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, I'm totally with you. You can't get away from that fact. And on top of that, there was also homophobic slurs, and there were other issues off the court that made me hate him even more. But then he came back. He helped rebuild the Lakers franchise, and then I hated him all over again on the court. And but looking back now, I mean, he made a lot of mistakes in his life, in his personal life, and in his career, I think. But one thing that, looking back at his life now, I cared so much. He made me care. He made me care more about the San Antonio Spurs. He made me support the Boston Celtics because I wanted them to win when they met in the finals that year. It made me care about Andrew Bynum. I wanted him to, when he left the Lakers, I wanted him to have an amazing career. Free from being under the guise of Kobe. And I was always rooting for Shaquille O'Neal. His presence made me care more about the NBA than I possibly did. But that's just my relationship with him. Like, everybody's got their own relationships, and Matt, you're a shining example of how he impacted you positively as well. But I think also the impact that he's had on everyone in the league, like you alluded to at the start of the pod. Especially this generation, they looked up to him. He was their big brother. And that's something that I think should be spoken about with Kobe, is that he has become a mentor, and he has become this person that everybody looks up to, and he's given them his time.
Yeah. I think that's, arguably what's been so remarkable about the recent Kobe Bryant is he retired, he had that phenomenal final game, the likes of which we will probably not see again, and that he trained for hard. Again, read the Roland Lazenby biography. Like, Kobe worked for that. He knew what he had to do to be in the sort of physical condition to score 60 that night. I think it's weird. You look back at that game, and you talk about the man, the myth, and the legend. Like, he outscored the Utah Jazz by himself in that final fourth quarter. He scored the final 17 consecutive points. He had Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, David Beckham, like all of these, celebs on their feet and just in awe of what he was doing. And I don't think any other NBA player has, or any sportsman, in fact, has ever had a a send-off quite like that. But after that, it became all about family. Like, you go back and watch that final game, within the final 5 minutes of that whistle of the clock going at the end, he's straight over to Vanessa and Gianna and his other kids, and he's a family guy. And he looked into, he did Detail on ESPN, which if you haven't seen is absolutely brilliant. It's quite difficult to watch over here, but you can get it online, where we saw a different light to Kobe. And he could have been an analyst. He could have just gone on NBA and TNT and been boom, and he would have been brilliant, because he looked at the game, and by all accounts, from what everyone has said this week, guys at The Ringer and Sports Illustrated and CBS, like, he was a great basketball interview. If you sat down with him, he would be there, and he was totally yours for the 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was that you had with him. And I know he impacted a lot of people's lives. Rachel Nichols on the jump this week, quite emotional, bit of a difficult watch, but well worth it. Tracy McGrady, guys like that. His impact has been incredible. And after he retired, he had to find a different avenue. Like, nobody thought there's a Slam magazine article from 2010-11 where it's like, Kobe doesn't know what to do after basketball. Like, it sadly said something like he would rather be dead. And yeah, if you read that now, and it doesn't end well. It doesn't really hit. It hits hard. But he found other avenues to develop himself, like his media ventures, doing Dear Basketball, winning an Oscar for that. Working with John Williams, who's done Star Wars and Jurassic Park and all these incredible theme songs for the movies. Doing the books that he's been doing recently, which I must admit I haven't read, because I'm not 12 or whatever it is the age group they're aimed for. But like, he was trying to find other ventures and was trying to branch out and be an author and be a father, and the dedication he showed to Gianna and what she meant, and the fact that she wanted to, I think she had aspirations to join UConn, and then go into the WNBA, and she'd met with all the women who are in there now. You end up rabbling on like I am right now and not really knowing how to end a sentence, so I'm just going to stop there.
I was fortunate enough to watch him play a couple of times. Opening game of the 2012 Olympics with Team USA was the second time I got to see him. The first time I got to see him was when I lived in Oregon back in 2005, 2006, and went to see the Blazers play against the Lakers on the 11th of January. And it was an unremarkable 10-point win for the Blazers. The highlight that I remember being to seal the game, essentially a steal in the backcourt and open fast break dunk from the legend that is Darius Miles. But I remember walking away from that game being disappointed in Kobe and just being like, he played terrible tonight. This guy is going to be one of the greatest of all time. And again, this maybe harks back to my obsession with MJ, but then I got hold of the box score and started looking through things, and fair enough, the dude had an absolutely terrible night from the floor. He shot 3 of 13 from 3, but he still finished with 41 points. And it was amazing to me that I'd sat there and watched the game and gone, what is this guy doing? Yeah, and then looked at the box score and he had 41 points, and I said to myself, if he can do that when he's not playing well, what can he do when he is playing well? And then about 4 games later, he dropped 81 on the Raptors. And I was just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's what he can do if he is actually playing well. It was just mad. I just couldn't get over that.
He was, and I'm going to use the word hero, and I hate using it, but he was the perfect hero for the last generation of basketball. Like, this generation now is all about stats and how, accurate you are from the floor, what your shooting percentage is, how many shots did you make, what's your efficiency. Like, Kobe's kind of like before, the last dog of the days when stats and analysis wasn't really a great deal in sports. We're seeing it coming now to like the Premier League over here, where they're checking, apparently Liverpool are doing all kinds of analytics which has helped them have their best statistical season ever. And like, it's strange. And Kobe was the guy who, like, you didn't have to worry about that with him. Yeah, he took a stupid amount of shots, and he probably should have done a lot, been a lot more efficient with what he was doing and passed the ball a lot more. But at the end of the day, you watched him because of his footwork, which was, unlike any other player. Kevin Durant has spoke many times about the footwork of Kobe Bryant, the sheer, certainly in his younger days, the sheer athleticism, the shooting ability that he developed as he got older and older, his ability to shoot the three off the dribble, off the catch and shoot, off the post. Like, he would fight people in the post and take them on. And even in that final game, right towards the end, he is driving through the lane, going up against someone like Gordon Hayward or Derek Favors and trying to get that and one. And that was Kobe. And like, skill for skill, he might have actually been unmatched, but everyone has their own memories, and I've said it many times before, but like, I didn't see Michael Jordan live. Like, I never, I caught up with him on YouTube and probably on The Last Dance this year at some point. So my memories are different, and yeah, for like me, Kobe is, he's the reason I fell in love with this sort of strange American sport that at high school here in Norwich, like, nobody cared about. People knew what American football was, and people knew what basketball was because it was that game that you played when it was raining outside and there was nothing else to do in PE lessons. And like, it's strange. Like, some of my earliest memories probably of basketball in general come from playing with, probably the Lakers and some other teams on the NBA Live games back when NBA Live was like the best thing since sliced bread. But that's all changed now, and it is what it is. But Kobe is ultimately the reason that I have, that I can sit here tonight and actually talk to you two guys. I went all of yesterday without really talking to anybody because people at my office at work, they don't watch basketball. They saw the news and that was about it, and that's all. That's the meaning. You can't have a meaningful conversation with any of them, and we will at some point go, in the summer, go into this with probably a lot more detail and talk about the stuff that we don't want to talk about tonight. But yeah, I don't really know where this is going, but Kobe has completely changed my life. He's changed all of our lives, really, when you think, because none of us would be talking to each other right now. Double Clutch UK would not exist, and there wouldn't be that outlet there. Like, it's really strange how things have worked out, and he was just, and Gianna especially, they're just taken far too soon. And yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's something that I will never forget, and I will, one day, hopefully, he says again, teach my kids, or show my kids Kobe Bryant footage and Gianna Bryant footage, because that's what you do.
Yeah. It's possibly worth just mentioning the names of some of the other people who
absolutely
passed away in that crash. So of course we've mentioned Kobe Bryant and Gianna, his daughter, but there were some of Gianna's teammates and fellow parents, and one of the coaches of the team, and of course the pilot. So it was John Altobelli, Kerry Altobelli, Alyssa Altobelli, Sarah Chester, Peyton Chester, Ara Zabayan, Christina Mauser. And we're obviously talking about Kobe because of our relationship to the world of basketball, but there are obviously 9 people who died in that crash, and a lot of people who are going to be hurting because it directly affects them. So it's worth at least noting those poor souls. And I know Josh has done a good job in a piece of audio that he's pre-recorded for us that we'll play shortly.
And like, we aren't American. We can't sit here and say that we fully appreciate the impact, but the scenes in Los Angeles the last 48 hours have just been ridiculous. Like, I watched someone like Jimmy Fallon and those guys who do the talk shows earlier, and that whole city and that everything's, it was all built around Kobe. Like, he was a 17-year-old who went into Los Angeles, Hollywood, got given all this money, played for the biggest team, whatever on the planet in the States, one of the most historic franchises in the whole world of sports, and stayed there until he finished. And then, tragically he's passed away far too soon. But it's strange, and you have that whole helicopter was full of talented sports people, and like I said earlier, lots of talented young women on that flight, which have been, they've had their future sort of stolen from them, really. And you had a pilot who was, by all accounts, Kobe's trusted pilot, and that helicopter was picked because of its safety record. And there's a lot of, if you actually go on the LA Times right now, the front page article is about everyone else on the helicopter, sorry. And it's well worth just reading through there and seeing all the individual stories that people have, and the people of that neighborhood actually have of Kobe and the Bryant family as well. It's strange how one person can have such a significant impact on an entire city, because he was out there. He was, actively a part of the daily life and the daily routine for quite a lot of people. And yeah, we can't imagine that. And I know I've got friends in Australia, like right now, Nick Caro, who used to do NBA Australia, and some of the other guys over there who are like us. They don't quite know what to do with themselves right now, because it's something, Kobe became someone that they became attached to as they grew up and loved the sport. And Australia has a greater affinity to basketball than, dare I say, this country does. And yeah, it's weird, because you sit here and a lot of people in this country don't really get it. But I've also been convinced this week that there's probably more people than I thought who do get it in this country.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. This has transcended basketball and transcended sport. I went into work today. I worked from home yesterday, and people who have never, they are aware of the concept of a game that involves throwing a ball through a hoop. That's probably the limit of their knowledge. Talking about this basketball man and Kobe, and the only thing I can compare it to, and this might be, offensive to some or sacrilegious or whatever, is Diana. That's the only tragic event I can think of where, I appreciate it was probably on a larger scale for Diana, and I was quite young then anyway. But the public vigils, the people stood outside the Staples centres, the candles, the jerseys, the essentially the pilgrimage, and the 24 hours of 48 now of sort of grieving remembrance, the masses there, the chants. I don't remember that happening for another, and maybe that's my awareness, but for another icon or celebrity or public figure. The only thing I can pull it back to is on a similar scale to Diana. And when I was watching some footage yesterday, they were interviewing some guy who was just around, and he was essentially saying, as you alluded to, that LA, he was the Prince of LA. This was his city, and now he's gone. Part of the city has died with him, and it's sort of at that point where you realise the magnitude of his impact on that whole area, and it's quite remarkable, really. It's just,
it's tough to put everything into words. Like tonight, you generally, I've taken these conversations and I don't know where they've gone, and I don't know how it sounds, but it's raw tonight. And if you listen to this and you're thinking, oh, it's crap, well, if it's crap, it's because we're just talking straight from the heart. Like, we're not sitting here, we're not reading anything. We're just, we're just going for it tonight, and we're just here as, three fans who've been brought together by a very, very unfortunate event, which, we will all remember. And I know there's a lot of people who, we're going to read some tweets out now who also have had a similar effect on them recently.
Yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit. I don't know where you guys want to start or finish, but I'll jump in with one of these first tweets.
Yeah, and we just want to point out quickly that we had quite a lot of correspondence just regarding this, and it's impossible to get through everything. I had a stupid idea that I thought was a good idea at the time of, inviting people to contribute articles to the site, which is, is actually a great idea, Matt. You're putting yourself down there. But we should, if you do want to write about Kobe, and if it is something really truly substantial and it needs an outlet, then please do get it over to us, because we would love to run it. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, Double Clutch was built to house the content for you guys and for us. So if you need to speak and you are feeling it like some of us are, get it in, because we want to read it. But anyway, here's a couple of the tweets that we've had in.
So Nathan Duncan 94 said, he was my generation's MJ. Everyone wanted to be like Kobe. He was like a superhero in real life. The man dropped 81 on my Raptors and I still loved him. Kids 10 to 15 years younger than me still shout Kobe when shooting. The game won't ever be the same again. Mamba forever.
That shouting Kobe thing is something that got me as well. I saw what Mo Moonsey of Sky Sports had put on his, and it is like, there's a lad who I used to work with who unfortunately got made redundant at Christmas, but like, he used to sit there and throw things in a bin and yell Kobe every now and then, and he wasn't even that much of a basketball fan. He just knew who Kobe was, and I think of that, and it makes me smile and it makes me sad.
Well, there was a beautiful video outside the Staples Center where someone had just put a trash can and they had taped the sign to it saying, "You know what to do." You know what to do.
That's amazing.
And everybody was just throwing paper balls into it, and they were all shouting Kobe. It was amazing.
I guess it's that social generation, isn't it? Like, and Mike, you can have a go at me here if you like, because I know you're a Jordan stan, but like, Michael wasn't the era where social media became a thing. Kobe was part of this weird era now that is all online and it is all available, and he's grown as the league has grown, and arguably that's why he has such a huge following in places like China and the Philippines. And that whole you know what to do, Kobe. Everyone's done it. Like, don't don't listen to this podcast and say you haven't, because you probably have. You just probably don't remember it.
Well, he sort of bridged it, didn't he? He had half of his career before social media, and he was a late adopter to social media.
But he hates technology, is what I learned earlier. Yeah,
but he realised that he needed to get onto it, or so someone convinced him to get onto it, and I think it was quite poignant that his last tweet ever was congratulating LeBron James on passing him in scoring.
Yeah, we've not even mentioned that, and that's that whole thing is weird. There's an interview with Dwight Howard after the game, and he's talking about how brilliant it is that it's passed, and then for some reason he goes on about, you need to fix relationships now. If you fall out with somebody, rectify that situation. Tell people that you love them, and it's fucking weird, man. We're looking at that now and seeing that, and then knowing what happened to Kobe and Gianna, it's odd.
Yeah, it is. I'm not going to argue the MJ point, because you're absolutely right. And I wonder, as I've air quotes, as I've matured as an adult, I do wonder whether my affinity and perception of Jordan would be different had he existed in a different era. Just some of the stories you hear now that you just didn't have access to then. But what interested me about exactly, and what interested me about Nathan's post, so his handle Nathan Duncan 94, so I'm going to assume he was born in 94, and he's chatting about kids who are born 10 to 15 years younger than him still shouting Kobe. So I that's, what's that going to be? That's 25 minus 10, so like 10 to 15 year olds, like, so that some of these kids would have been like, could have been 5, so when Kobe retired essentially. So
it's the social media, the TikTok generation growing up with the NBA there at your fingertips, something which if we'd have told you that 20 years ago, Mike, you'd have probably been like, you're lying to me.
Where's this been all my life? We had another tweet from UK Chicago Bulls, which was Kobe. Wow, it still doesn't feel real. Nobody will know this, but the second jersey I ever owned was the purple Kobe Bryant Los Angeles Lakers jersey. I haven't mentioned this before because I didn't think people should know the guy running the UK Chicago Bulls account had a Lakers jersey. Now, though, I feel everyone should know. They should know because it shows the impact he had on everyone. I've never liked the Lakers, but Kobe was that guy you had to admire. Nothing about him was normal. Mamba mentality really was and still is a thing. I will try my best to instill that into my kids and let them know that with Mamba mentality there is nothing they cannot achieve. Rest in peace, Kobe. You're more than basketball. Rest in peace to everyone on board, and thoughts and prayers to the families affected. Yeah, there you go. He transcended single franchise fandom.
Yeah, definitely he did. Well,
those Bulls fans were psychos as well.
But Kobe specifically had, he had, they called it Kobe Stan, didn't they? Where you were a fan of.
You can be a fan of Kobe and not the Lakers, apparently, which I don't understand. That's what I'm getting at.
Like there are so many people who, when LeBron James joined the Lakers, all the Kobe fans sort of didn't like it that he was here, and it's like he's the second greatest player of all time. But they're all like, what? How dare you say such a thing?
Do you remember they mocked it in Game of Zones as well?
That's what I was
it was Kobe leading them, throwing his stuff up at the window.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's brilliant. Oh dear.
I'll do the next one. Hang on, which one's this from? Gavitio. I think that's your handle, Gavitio.
At Gavlar_Blacko is the handle.
Okay, well there we go. Totally butchered that.
Anyway. Long time follower actually.
Ooh.
Often interacts.
Just about Kobe. Got so cut up about it yesterday. Don't know if it was the dad thing or something else, but I would always show pupils when coaching basketball footage of him. Showing his mentality. Oh, right. Showing his mentality. Showing his mentality and never give up attitude. A lot of respect for the man. Still unbelievable today. Love to his family and the NBA players who knew him well.
Yeah, I kind of get where he's coming from with the dad thing. Little JJ has had lots of hugs and it's probably just been like, what are you doing, Dad? I'm just trying to watch Thomas the Tank Engine and Little Baby Bum and all this weird little kids crap that now occupy my TV and stop me from watching League Pass as much. But that kid's had a lot of hugs because it's just that does hit hard.
Yeah,
in a way that I didn't think it was possible to.
Mike, do you want to do the next one? Or
yeah, sure. So the next one is a really nice guy. I actually used to play ball with him a few years back. Rob Vassy. I lost my idol today. The reason I love the game and decided to keep playing it when probably I should have stopped. In the 2000s, I used dial-up internet to watch 3-minute clips of Kobe Bryant playing before going to East Kent Jazz basketball tournaments with a needless load of handles of friends. As a teacher now and a coach, I mention his name on a daily basis. 10 years ago, I got the chance to see him play with a couple of friends. He saw me and waved when I called him. I even got his towel after the game. He was my driving force for competing in all sports, school achievements and overall success. Kobe Bryant has always been my favourite athlete, my idol and main source of inspiration. I'm truly heartbroken, but nothing compared to how his family must be feeling. Our basketball world lost big time today. Goodbye, Kobe. Mamba, Vino. #Mamba out. I guess that's cool. I guess that's sort of a similar relationship to him that you had. Like I played with Rob, and he has somewhat of that Mamba mentality. Like we were on the same team, and a couple of times we almost came to blows in scrimmages. But I've got a lot of respect for him. He's a really nice guy.
Were you the Shaq in that situation then, Mike?
Well, I was definitely the older, fatter, slower, unable to do half the things that he could do on the floor kind of character. So yeah, but I definitely was nowhere near as dominant as Shaq.
It's weird because obviously he mentions the fact that he got to see Kobe play it, and I'm okay with it at the moment, but I wonder if in like 10 years' time I'm going to really sit there and be like, why didn't I just, get on a plane and go over there and see him, even if it meant going into the overdraft or whatever for a period of time. Like I should have just done it. I don't know if I'll ever end up regretting that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned it in your article, Matt, but like I was also a big fan of Prince growing up, and I nearly bought tickets one year to go see him. I think I balked at the price though. He was in the O2, and I thought, yes, this is my opportunity to see him, but I didn't have the money to. But I should have just sold my kidney or something. I should have.
Yeah. Was that the 21 night thing?
It might have been. Yeah, and
I'm not a Prince fan.
And then when he died, I hated myself for not seeing him because he was a big musical hero of mine. So I get it. It's you want to see heroes. You want to appreciate them in more ways than is possible. But at the same time, some people say don't meet your heroes. Don't chase the dreams that are may end up being negatives in the end. So, but it's you've just got to be grateful for everything you have in life. I think that's something that we can take away from Sunday, is that no matter who you are or where you are in the world, you've just got to. And I've heard that about a lot of people, that it's affected more closely. Like listening to Shaquille O'Neal's podcast recently, he said ever since then, I mean, it's horrible that it takes an incident like this to do this sort of thing. And like you said, Mike, you've been hugging your kids a bit more. I certainly gave my girlfriend quite a few more hugs than usual yesterday. I don't know why. Maybe that it was to do with this, but Shaq was saying he's going to go call Dennis Scott because he hasn't spoken to him for a while, and he wants to chat to him because it's his best friend, and he wants to tell him he loves him. And that it's big situations like this that make you want to do that and speak to friends and reconnect with people that you wish you were still close to.
Yeah, I think when I wrote that as well, and Prince, it felt like a natural sort of juxtaposition for me, because like Prince became a guy who was just known by one name, and he transcended music, and like I'm too young to have appreciated him in his prime and stuff, but like I grew up with my parents who love listening to Prince, and I love all kinds of music actually, and it's filtered down to me, and I would describe my music taste as weird right now, but
eclectic, I think, is the one you should go for.
That's probably a better word. But yeah, and I just felt like that would make that sets the scene for somebody who doesn't get what Kobe means to sports fans or to basketball fans. But yeah, okay, next one.
Do you want me to do this? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I'll go with it. It's another guy I know. So I probably need to preface this. This is another lovely chap, Adam Morris. He does a lot of. He's like a film buff and a pro autograph hunter. Like, it weirds me out. He's on forums to find out how people, where he's at all the premieres, and he's on these forums finding out whereabouts people are. A couple of the NBA London games, he has been all over the place. There's photos of him shaking hands with Dikembe. I think he's got Hakeem as well, and he's just like, he's a lovely bloke, but I just can't get my head around this sort of thing. But anyway. So this is the story he's told me before in a pub, and I'm probably not going to do it justice, but it was the Saturday before the gold medal London 2012 Olympic basketball game, and he'd managed to find out the hotel the USA squad was staying in. So him and Colin's another guy, another nice guy that I know.
You know a lot of nice guys.
I know that we all the nice guys club. We all hang out. Decided to go up and try and meet the players, even though Colin was on crutches at the time. So they waited several hours at the hotel for the coach to go to practice. The security at the door said it was only the second time they practiced all tournament, which is another testament to just the standard of talent that team had. None of them stopped when leaving to go to the practice, but on the way back they managed to get autographs from KD, AD, and Tyson Chandler. After about 10 minutes from then, Kobe left the hotel with security because he wasn't actually staying in the same hotel as the team. I think that was subsequently been pretty common knowledge. About 20 to 30 people grouped up, started trying to follow him, and this is where Morris is a pro autograph hunter, so he could see what was going to happen and cross to the other side of the road to separate himself from those 20 to 30 people, because he's like, these people are all going to get told by security to go away and leave him alone. So he ditched Colin because, he's on crutches. Go away, Colin, you can't keep up. So the plan was to try and figure out what hotel Kobe was, as he'd read online, again, one of his crazy forums, that he was staying somewhere else. So figured if he found the hotel, there'd be less people, better chance of meeting him. This is dedication to your craft. So he's referred to it as, which is Kobe, his security team, and Morris were walking towards Berkeley Square, and he figured he was going to be at the Mayfair Hotel. So if your London geography isn't spot on, that will mean nothing to you. Which would have been left. So this is crafty Morris again. He turns right so he could follow at a bit more of a distance, but then they also turned right. So they come around the top of the square, crossing a zebra crossing, and a white BMW comes around the corner, sees Kobe, pulls over and gets out to try and take photos. At that point, Kobe looks over, can see Morris is following him from a distance rather creepily with his squad prints in hand, and just went, man, get the hell out of here. So at that point, Morris just quickly turned and ran away. But that's one of my favourite stories that he's ever told me. And it just makes me chuckle every time.
I think we should screenshot that and share it on the social media account as well. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, it's something unique that only a UK fan's going to have. I guess I'll finish off for the last two. We had 21 Seconds to Dan, rest in peace Mamba. One of the main reasons I got back into the NBA was the way he played. So sad. And then Tom Dyson, who's been tweeting using hashtag ME in the UK for quite a long time. And this one's a bit upsetting, but we'll go for it. My 5-year-old daughter heard the news about Kobe's death whilst I was at work. She waited all day to tell me, Daddy, I have some really sad news. A basketballer died in a helicopter and his daughter died of a broken heart. And I guess that says it all. We've gone on longer than I thought we were going to go on. And to be honest, after I did that opening monologue or whatever the hell it was, I thought it was going to go. I'm still here. I'm quite impressed myself. We're probably just going to sign it off and say goodbye. There will be cut-ins from Josh Coyne and Nick Whitfield after this, but Mike, Hugh, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for doing this. It's been good to just talk about it, is all I can say, really.
Yeah, hopefully it's been therapeutic for yourself, and hopefully people listening, especially if they are as fanatical about Kobe as you are, hopefully hearing us have a little chat about it as well. Hopefully it's helped them if they're struggling. But one thing I'll say is that, like, if you are struggling generally with, like, these types of things can be quite upsetting. Make sure you speak to someone as well. Make sure you reach out to friends. Try and get them to understand what you're going through, because these times can be difficult. But yeah, tell people you love that you love them, and yeah, we'll catch up next week. We'll be back to normal service, no doubt.
Yeah, and keep sharing your Kobe stories. Like, if you've got Kobe memories, you don't have to have met him, you don't have to have stalked him across London. If you've got memories of one of the greatest players of all time that means something to you, then share them with us. We'd love to see him.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we've said it a million times, but we're here for you guys. Please, like, in the future, get involved with the show. Tweet us, email us, comment on the post, reshare things. Tweet Mike, tweet me, tweet Hugh, tweet any of the team. Like, everybody here they're just like you. We're just NBA fans at the end of the day. And, Kobe and his unfortunate passing, and his daughters as well, and everybody else, it's brought us all together for a very, very strange night. But yeah, for episode 324 of the Double Clutch podcast, good night.
This is Nick from the Double Clutch team. I just thought I'd leave some thoughts on Kobe. I'm going to start by reading a extract from my article on the Double Clutch website. If you get time to check it out, that would be appreciated. It was something I put together very quickly when I heard the news. Consequently, had a lot of other thoughts, went through a lot of other emotions, but that was my instant reaction. Kobe Bryant could take on whatever meaning you wanted to place on him. Bryant was basketball's white whale for two different generations of basketball fans. Like Moby Dick, Bryant's symbolism was enigmatic, a provocative challenge to the reader, perhaps even a mirror back at them. However you chose to read Bryant, however you chose to publicly speak about and align yourself in regards to Kobe, that said something about you as a basketball fan and as a person. And if you've read any of my other stuff, you know I'm a super nerd, so literary reference thrown in for good measure there. One of the things that's been talked about a lot the last few days is the Jordan comparison, and being either a little bit older than some of the Double Clutch team or having got into basketball a little bit earlier in some cases. I was lucky enough to watch the second half of Jordan's career live, so I feel like I have quite strong opinions on this one. They were quite different in certain ways. Jordan had an unknowable detachment. He liked privacy, and digital communications hadn't advanced to the point where you felt like you knew him. Instagram, Facebook, all this stuff didn't exist. So your exposure to him outside of marketing material or live games was quite small. You basically saw what Nike wanted you to see about Jordan. Kobe came about after the internet was around, so he still had that Jordan-like aura, but you felt like you knew him a bit more. He came at the right time to be constantly visible because of where digital communications were, but not so much later that every time he eats a meal, it's on Instagram, and he wasn't around so much later that the mystique of his superhero aura was broken. I think one of the key ways they were different was Michael Jordan was an ultimate alpha male in terms of every situation, whether it was cards, golf, whatever, gambling. He had to dominate everyone around him. Kobe had that same drive to win, but he was naturally introverted, and I think that's where I saw more in common with him, closer to my own personality. I've seen a lot of people sharing memories, so I thought I'd share some of mine that I most closely associate with Kobe. Before the London Olympics, the USA team was playing an exhibition game against GB in Manchester. Being in the southeast, it's a long way away, but I knew this was something I couldn't miss. That would probably only happen once in my lifetime, so at very short notice I dropped everything, drove to Manchester, watched a basketball game, came back again because I had to see that game. Never forget being able to watch Kobe compete against some of the GB guys. I remember as a New York Knicks fan, I think some of my Kobe memories are slanted that way. I remember in the middle of Linsanity, where the Lakers came to Madison Square Garden, and for me, that was when Linsanity really became beyond a novelty, and it was something real at that point because of the credibility that him having one of those games against Kobe Bryant, that's the legitimacy that he brought based on who he was. He's also, Kobe is the all-time leading scorer for a visiting player to Madison Square Garden with 61. He overtook MJ with 55. Had to watch both those guys beat up on my Knicks. And I think one of the games I'll always remember, obviously people talk about the 81, they talk about his final game and stuff, but the 2003 All-Star game was one that really talked about who Bryant was as a competitor and as a winner. It was Jordan's last ever All-Star game. This was in his Wizards tenure, which was not great by MJ standards. But the East guys are feeding MJ the ball. He's playing pretty well. It's a close game, comes down to the fourth, down the stretch. MJ hits an unbelievable turnaround over, I think it was Sean Marion off the top of my head. I haven't rewatched it. And that looked like it'd be the last significant play of the game. Kobe had other ideas. He hits a shot coming down the other end, unbelievable. He blocks MJ, makes him look every one of his 40 years old at that point, and then absolutely dominates the overtime to take the win. I feel like everyone else in that game, other than Kobe, was quite content to sort of let the storybook play out and let that story happen. Kobe wasn't going to let that happen, though. I was lucky enough to be around him, Kobe, a little bit in China this summer. Not to the extent I'd pretend to have any level of insider knowledge or relationship with him or anything along those lines, but I was around him enough to tell that he had this incredible aura around him. You couldn't mistake the fact you're in the same room as him. I've been around a lot of basketball players, but never quite experienced anything like that. He was a consummate professional in everything he did, whether it was on the court as a father or conducting an interview. He wanted to be the best. And it's about being the best that I had another thought where Josh Coyne from the Double Clutch team and me covered White Men Can't Jump in a podcast not that long ago. And one of the profound messages out of that movie was that sometimes when you win, you really lose. And sometimes when you lose, you really win. That got me thinking about Kobe and how he'd set out to be the greatest player who ever lived. And I don't think, unless you're the biggest Kobe stan ever, you'd necessarily place him there. But his, which would suggest he was a failure. But for me, it was his chase of greatness was so beyond critique. He couldn't have physically worked any harder. He couldn't have watched any more tape. He couldn't have thought about the game any more than he did. And obviously, he got damn close. And it was this unrelenting chase of greatness that I personally admired more than anything else. It was flawless. And to me, that means he won. I started this long ramble saying that Kobe could mean anything you wanted him to. And so I thought I'd share what, particularly over the last few days, I've realised he symbolised to me. To me, Kobe will always be a connection to a younger, more naive version of myself. A youthful innocent shooting hoops into the evening, studying NBA footage closely, dreaming of one day making it to the league. Being the age that I am, Kobe's 6 years older than me, I think. When he was drafted into the NBA at 18, I was 12, harbouring hoop dreams of my own. He was living my dream, and he was who I wanted to be. I remember watching his final game, overcoming his physical limitations, the injuries he'd gone through as an older player. And on my own modest level, I was trying to come to terms with not being able to play the game as I once could at whatever modest level I was able to play, and failing miserably for the same reasons, injuries, age, etc. But I was able to watch Kobe largely through force of will, able to still do it at the highest level. He was, again, living my dream and who I wanted to be. And so for me, I realised that Kobe was a big symbol for the time I fell in love with basketball, and a very nostalgic reference for me as a person. As I referenced earlier, I like to throw in things from pop culture and stuff, and I've got something from Mad Men here that talks a little bit about nostalgia and how powerful it is. Nostalgia. It's delicate but potent. Teddy told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound. It's a twinge in your heart far more powerful than memory alone. This device isn't a spaceship, it's a time machine. It goes backwards and forwards. It takes us to a place where we ache to go again. It lets us travel the way a child travels, around and back home again, to a place where we know we are loved.
What happened at the weekend was heartbreaking for a multitude of reasons. Multiple families were torn apart, lives were lost, and others were irreversibly altered. The losses of John, Kerry and Elisa Altabelli, Christina Mauser, Sarah and Peyton Chester, and Gianna and Kobe Bryant are being felt over the world. One family that is feeling the loss is the international basketball community. See, that's just it. Basketball brings people together, it brings families together, and that's why the loss of an icon like Bryant in such tragic circumstances feels incredibly personal and intensely cruel. See, as a teenager in the middle of the United Kingdom, I remember setting alarms to wake up at 2 a.m. With friends staying over and to head downstairs to watch the 2008 finals with my dad. I grew up as a Celtics fan, and overcoming Kobe was the reason we were giving up sleep that night. We wanted him to miss basically every shot he took, and alas, his offensive excellence had other ideas. Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, was absolutely unplayable at best. As time goes on, it's not the winning that matters as much as what those games mean to basketball fans who hold those games, those series, those moments close to their heart. And without icons, heroes, and sports-based villains like Kobe, it's just another basketball game. I grew up hearing about the stories of Shaq and Kobe from family friends based in California. It was, to me, like some kind of fairy tale land, another world to me at that point. Anything I saw of Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, that deadly duo that I mentioned before, that it just didn't feel attainable. So when I was old enough, it became an obsession to learn about the game. That's why you're hearing from me now about this matter. Did I want Kobe to lose when he was playing? Almost always. Did I love watching him play? Well, 3 trips to Lakers games and a couple of experiences watching the loaded US Olympic teams answers that question. Another heartbreaking element of it is that the victims were together on their way to play basketball and to coach basketball at Kobe's camp. Bryant, and I'm sure the families of all victims, had at that point dedicated their lives to fostering their daughter's basketball ventures, and the love of the game was still clearly there for Bryant, and that's something that we should remember in all of this. The thoughts of these families having a hole in their lives is absolutely crushing. All victims were taken away too early, and the basketball world will just never fully recover. However, let's have the highlights of one of the greatest to ever to do it and his daughter's team live on in their memory. Kobe, you non-flinching, win at all costs, infuriatingly ruthless, volume-scoring juggernaut. Rest in peace.
A 1-point game. Bryant for the win.
Dear basketball, from the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the Great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you. A love so deep, I gave you my all, from my mind and body to my spirit and soul. As a 6-year-old boy, deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself running out of one. And so I ran. I ran up and down every court after every loose ball for you. You asked for my hustle, I gave you my heart. Because it came with so much more. I played through the sweat and the hurt. Not because challenge called me, but because you called me. I did everything for you. Because that's what you do when someone makes you feel as alive as you've made me feel. You gave a 6-year-old boy his Laker dream. And I'll always love you for it. But I can't love you obsessively for much longer. This season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding. My mind can handle the grind. But my body knows it's time to say goodbye. And that's okay. I'm ready to let you go. I want you to know now, so we both can savor every moment we have left together. The good and the bad. We have given each other all that we have. And we both know, no matter what I do next, I'll always be that kid with the rolled up socks, garbage can in the corner, 5 seconds on the clock, ball in my hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love you always, Kobe.